Sooner fans, Longhorn Nation, welcome to episode 148 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, University of Texas, and the University of Oklahoma. I'm here with my man, Kevin Miller. I am John Whitson. Kevin, as many people know, yesterday was a momentous day. The ground shook. Change has come across the country and affected many people in many different ways.
I agree completely.
And you're going to ask yourself, is this a day that we remember? Right? Is this an historic day that we remember? And I think that when I look back on November 5th, 2024, and I think all that's happened and all that is going to happen, I say to myself, my God, is Oklahoma really a favorite against Missouri? You know what I'm saying? Like,
historic day.
Earth-shattering news,
historic
Kevin.
day. Yes.
Earth-shattering. When I woke up on November 5th, I said, what is going to happen today? Is it just going to be like every other day? And then I find that Oklahoma has shifted from a 3-point underdog to a 3-point favorite on the road against, also released yesterday in earth-shattering news and major developments in the first college football playoff bowl, was Missouri is number 24. So you've got number 24 Missouri, per the poll, hosting Oklahoma at 6:45 on Saturday. And as of yesterday, Oklahoma is a 3-point favorite. What in the hell is happening, Kevin?
You told me about this. You're the one who told me about this. I'm like, wait, what? How? What the heck happened? And then it sounds like you are possibly getting some guys back who have been out for quite a while.
Okay, I agree. So now I'm even more perplexed, okay? I'm even more perplexed because, yes, we find out that there is very positive news on Deion Burks and Jaleel Farouk. Okay? Look, they're not Nick Anderson and they're not Jaden Gibson, but they're really, really good. Now, I don't know how good they're going to be. I don't know to what extent they're still recovering from injuries, but it's just that the hope that even having those players on the sidelines and potentially ready to go, what kind of boost it could give the team. And it's like, and then you have Jackson Arnold doing an interview. And Jackson Arnold's like, not only are we getting some players back, but we're getting leaders back. I mean, he is very positive about this situation. Very positive. And he should be. And then I get on here to record the Bevo Podcast, episode 148. And the last thing I see before I start recording is the injury report. And guess who's listed as questionable on the injury report?
Are both guys?
Both guys, Kevin. Thank you. Yes.
Wow.
I didn't know why you were pausing so much. I didn't know if that was like dramatic effect. Yes. Jaleel Farouk and Deion Burks are still listed as questionable. And if we've seen anything from this year, if you're questionable on Wednesday, it means you are unquestionably not playing on Saturday. That joke's already been told once this year, but for those that didn't listen. Kevin, my mind is swirling right now. My mind is swirling. I have no idea. And then let's just add a little insult to injury, pun intended. Javonte Barnes is freaking questionable. The dude just had a career game, albeit against Maine, but he ran for 200 yards, 11.8 yards a carry. You're like, finally, we're moving in the right direction. Maybe we can build on this confidence. And Javonte Barnes is questionable with an ankle sprain.
Yeah, that's not good. Not a good look. But hey, you wanted to see Taylor Tatum, right? You've been wanting it all year. Now's your chance, potentially.
Dude, they play Taylor Tatum. He's going to have 3 fumbles, Kevin. Just to spite me.
Now, you're saying there's some questions about Missouri's quarterback starting. What's going on there?
I think that I guess it's still his hand injury, right? And
yeah, it looks like he injured his throwing hand hitting a Alabama defender's helmet.
Okay, so when I first heard the news about the spread, my first thought was Brady Cook. But then I heard the news about Farouk and Deion Burks. I'm like, is that enough? And then I come back to that is like Brady. Now I haven't seen their injury report yet to see where he's at. I will say this about Missouri, and I don't want to like jinx this by saying this and like he comes out and plays like a Heisman Trophy winner or something. But it's not like Brady Cook is killing it. Okay,
yeah, he hasn't been having the season that we thought he would have for sure.
1,500 yards, 62% completion percentage, only 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. He does have 4 rushing touchdowns, but those aren't groundbreaking numbers. I mean, if Jackson Arnold plays the whole year, I'm not sure he's not ahead of those numbers, except maybe in the completion percentage.
Correct. Yeah, I think he would put up more. He'd put up more numbers than that for sure.
Now, Drew Pine is not good. When he came in relief of him in relief of Brady Cook against Alabama, he had 2. Well, I don't even know what he had, but it wasn't good.
3
but
interceptions.
He had 3 interceptions. Yeah. From what I understand, if I recall, they completed 76 passing yards against Alabama between the 2 quarterbacks.
My goodness. Hold on, let's see. I think I got their stats here. But yeah, it's I think your defense has to be licking their chops just for the opportunity to get after if Drew Pine's out there.
So yeah,
the exotic blitzes that you guys are going to be scheming up for that guy doesn't sound good for them at all.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see, Kevin. If we get a positive report on Brady Cook, does the line shift back down, more in Missouri's favor? If Farouk and Burks and Barnes stay on the questionable list, does the line switch? Like, is this just going to be a really volatile line?
It certainly seems that way. It seems that way to me. I mean, there's just so much happening. For it to shift that dramatically, a 6-point swing in one day, that's a big time move. So it seems like that could continue to move if we get more information about guys being healthy or guys actually being ruled out.
Look, I mean, here, if you're Oklahoma, you've played without Burks and Farouk.
Yes.
You haven't won. You won. I guess we won at Auburn, right? So we've only won 1 game without Burks and Farouk, but we did win at Auburn. But we're quote unquote used to that. It's now becoming the status quo. This is just where we're at. For Missouri, it's a much bigger shot to have to start the game with Drew Pine, if that indeed is the case. Their offense just hasn't been great. I think this is an opportunity. Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, it's a great opportunity. Brady Cook against Alabama, 7 of 12 for 30 yards. No interceptions, no touchdowns, got sacked once. Then Drew Pine coming in after Cook was injured, 6 of 12 for 42 yards and 3 interceptions. Rough go of it. Luther Burden, what do you have? 3 catches for 3 yards.
Yeah, Theo Weiss actually has better stats than Burden outside of the touchdowns. Weiss has 37 receptions on the year, 482 yards, 13 yards per catch, and a touchdown. Burden has 40 catches on the year. I guess he has more catches, but for less yards, 450 yards, 11.3 yards per catch, and 4 touchdowns. Not eye-popping numbers, though, and we know that Burden's a player, right?
I mean, this is a guy's potential first-round guy.
And Theo Weiss, I liked Weiss at Oklahoma. I'm not mad that he left. This isn't like some kind of, I'm not mad at the kid or anything. I actually really liked him, though, at Oklahoma. I thought that I just didn't think he was developed or was given enough time or maybe had some injury issue, whatever the case was. I like him. I think that's I would take these 2 receivers in a heartbeat over what we have right now.
Yeah, I mean, Luther Burden, first of all, former OU commit. Coming out of the St. Louis area under Lincoln Riley. Ultra talented guy, 5-star guy. And he's had a 5-star career up until it's not like he's been bad this season. He just hasn't been dominant. He hasn't been the guy in college football from the receiver position like we thought he could be. So it's just been, it hasn't clicked with Missouri like we expected it to. Just hasn't clicked.
Have they just been the benefit of just like an amazing schedule? Is that
Well,
what's
I mean,
keeping them at 6-2?
that makes sense. I mean, here's their schedule so far: Murray State, Buffalo,
Yeah.
Boston College, which was a close game. They had to come back to win. They beat Vanderbilt, which looks like a good win now. They went to A&M, and we all know what happened there, 41-10.
Yep.
Then they went to UMass, which still makes no sense, 45-3. They beat Auburn, close game, 21-17, and then they lose to Bama 34-0. So yeah, I mean,
I got it.
they got one win, one quality win.
Which is the quality win? Auburn?
No, Vanderbilt.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I got to tell you, I have no idea how they're still ranked 24th.
Neither do I. These AP writers.
But that's not the AP. That's not the AP.
No, it's the college football playoff rankings too.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't understand that at all. And usually I give a little bit more credit to the CFP committee, but I don't understand this either. It just doesn't make sense. The Vanderbilt win's good. And then what else?
Yeah.
I mean, Auburn, that was a dogfight, 21-17, right? So
yeah,
I don't understand. You play two talented opponents and gotten smacked in both. Smacked. Right. I mean, 31-point loss to A&M and a 34-point loss to Alabama.
Look, the only game we've been, well, I guess we got smacked by, you could say we got smacked by South Carolina. We played Texas smacked us. Ole Miss did not. I don't know. We shouldn't compare losses. That's probably a bad road to go down. But
that's what we do, though. We're fans. This is what we do, especially in college football.
I think at the end of the day, though, this is a game Oklahoma should and needs to win.
You absolutely need to win, and it's very winnable. It's set up for you to win. It'll be a fun atmosphere. The thing about Missouri, right, I think it's one of those places, it's loud enough to get your attention and keep you focused, but maybe not loud enough to intimidate you like a Florida can be or South Carolina, one of those places. Yeah. So I think that those kind of environments bring focus to teams. So yeah, it's all there, man. Even if the quarterback was healthy, I still think you'd be in a position to win this game. The only thing that I want to see from Oklahoma is how you protect, how the offensive line looks. I think that's going to be the difference in the game, especially if you have the receivers, if you can give Jackson enough time to make the throws and get those guys involved. Because you just have more competence out there.
I'm looking at the other side of the coin with the offensive line. I want to see run block. I want to see run game.
Yeah.
I want to see us because we saw it against Maine. A winning formula for Oklahoma is going to be ball control and running the ball. And if we have to punt,
that's a winning formula.
Well, I know it sounds easy, right? But at the same time,
no. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying that's always a winning formula if you can do it.
And so seeing Javonte Barnes hurt is just a kick to the footballs right now. I love Taylor Tatum. I think he's got a bright future. He showed an inability to not hold on to the ball, which is really frustrating. Xavier Robinson had a good game, I guess, but that's against Maine's backups. So I don't know that we can expect that against Missouri.
And I mean, can you rely on a Sam Franklin or a Caleb Hicks? I mean,
you know what? I honestly thought we'd see more of Hicks by now. So I don't know, Kevin. Not having Barnes, not having
and Sawchuk being hurt.
Sawchuk is
not effective.
Sawchuk is he's still on the list. He's still on the injury list. So it's just, if we're down to Tatum, I mean, I think Tatum can absolutely run the ball. There's reasons why he hasn't played. I think those have bore out to an extent, especially with his ball security. I mean, the fumble against Ole Miss, even though J.J. Hester recovered it, was a bad fumble. You can't go pick up 12 yards and get tackled by one dude and lose the ball.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the same thing happened against Texas. That was a pivotal moment in that game, you know?
Pivotal. Well, we were going to lose Texas anyway, but yes, I
True, but
agree.
when you are still somewhat in the game, man, and that kind of play just swings it the other way and it's over.
So anyway, look, Oklahoma's got to. I think they've got their defense. We know what they can do. This is an offense that is vulnerable right now, regardless of who the quarterback is, but especially if it's Drew Pine. We've got the game plan from Alabama. If our defense can show up like they have all year, even in games where you question them a little bit, you look back and say, oh God, that Ole Miss game was actually pretty good. Like that Tennessee game, they actually did a pretty good job. Like our defense has had a very, very good season, and they just need to show up one more game on Saturday. And then if we can just continue to see the progression, okay, we saw a little bit of improvement with Ole Miss. We felt a lot better after watching Maine. It was Maine, but the concepts looked better. Our identity looked better. Let's take it on the road. We've got to get a win. It's non-negotiable.
You have to.
We have to get a win.
Yeah, we're talking about bowl eligibility here, which is important. You just don't want to have a season end where you said we did not go to a bowl game. Trust me, I've been there, and it sucks. Even if the bowl game is a horrible, boring bowl game that nobody cares about, you just don't want to say, yeah, they didn't even go to a bowl game this year. You just don't want that.
But, Kevin, here's the problem, dude. We have Alabama coming up in 2 weeks. And then we got to go on the road to LSU. It's not a place that Oklahoma can afford to lose a game. And then, you end the season with 3 losses and a 5-7 record. And depending on how we look in those 3 losses, that is serious repercussions for people on the coaching staff, for transfer portal, for recruiting.
Yeah.
All the way down the line. None of it's good. None of it's good if we go 0-3.
You're in year 3 of a program. This is not year 1, because you can get away with being 5-7 in year 1 and still sign a great recruiting class because you're selling hope and what my program can be. Once you get into year 3, Texas saw this with Charlie Strong. You go 5-7 in year 3, it's pretty much over.
Gosh, we just got to get a win. Okay. Oklahoma is a 3-point favorite. The over-under is 42. We will pick this game at the end of the podcast when we pick our other games. Amongst the slate of games that are actually really, really good, there's some really good matchups, high-ranking matchups in the SEC. And so we'll talk about all of that. But let's first go back to the University of Texas. So Texas hosts Florida. And as predicted on this show, Florida was beat all to hell by Georgia physically. They've now lost their – okay, so who was their first quarterback, Kevin?
Graham Mertz was their starting quarterback to start the season.
So Mertz is out. Then they got to bring in DJ Lagway, who was a 5-star and who looked pretty good.
Freshman. Always a talented guy. Yeah.
And all he did was have a non-contact injury to his hamstring where he got carted off. Napier's trying to do a shell game to say, well, it's not as serious as we thought. I don't know. You said it yourself even before we were taping. It's hard to buy into that when you saw the guy getting carted off on in an ambulance almost. So that brings up Aiden Warner, who's a preferred walk-on, not even a scholarship player, preferred walk-on, transfer from Yale. So he's a smart kid, but he hadn't played in any big games really. He is recovering from a torn ACL over the summer. So I was reading a little bit about him. In his last game with Yale, he thought he had a sprained MCL. It was misdiagnosed. He transfers, arrives at Florida. They scope the knee or test the knee and find out he has a torn ACL.
Goodness.
So then he has to have, so he's still coming off of that. All that to be said, let's go back to Lagway. Let's suppose Billy Napier is not full of crap. and that there is a chance Lagway can play. Is it even possible he's effective?
I mean, maybe it'll be tough against Texas' defense with the pass rush and the way Texas has been covering this year. He certainly wouldn't. You wouldn't imagine he could have any kind of real, even pocket mobility, the ability to sidestep and evade rushers while keeping his eyes downfield. Seems really rough with a hamstring injury, despite his immense talent. He's a very talented guy.
That brings Aiden Warner. And I just don't know what you can expect for this kid going into DKR against a top 5 Texas team. For your first start.
It's asking a lot. I mean, they're
with a team that's 4-4. I mean, it's not like Florida State from last year where you're bringing in the backup and now the third string, but you're just surrounded by
NFL dudes all over the place.
NFL dudes and a culture and a momentum, and you're playing for something. Right, that was the vibe in Tallahassee last year, not this year, but that was the vibe last year. This is not the vibe in Gainesville. It's not going to be the vibe heading down to Austin. And I just look at it, and as a Sooner fan, which I'm first and foremost a Sooner fan, I look at this and go, Texas has looked into another, freaking just perfect position to play a team this year. It's unbelievable.
Hey, man, every so often you get these kind of luck where things just kind of fall into place for you. So it's up to us to take advantage of it, because these things don't happen very often to where you get luck, and so take advantage of it.
Let's say that. Okay, I agree with you. And look, you take what you could get. Oklahoma did not take advantage of it last year. They should have beat Kansas. They should have beat Oklahoma State. They could have been in the college football playoff. Had a great win against Texas. Who knows what would happen in the Big 12 championship? But that's neither here nor there. They should have gone undefeated in the regular season, and everybody knows that. Okay, Texas. You're looking at your first year through the SEC. Okay? You guys are very good. I don't think you're like all-time good, but you're a really good football team, right? Would you agree with that?
Correct.
Okay. So far through the SEC, and now you're playing Florida, I don't feel like Texas has gotten any of the real SEC experience. To me, outside of the Georgia game, I don't know that the Big 12 was a much harder conference than what you're seeing right now.
Well, that's a good point. So far, I mean, we haven't had a lot of even SEC games. I mean, we had Mississippi State. They're not any good. OU, which is technically an SEC game, but that's a game we have played every year for the last 100 years. Sans 1 year, I believe. Then the Georgia game, which was, didn't go great, but it was a fun experience.
Big time game. Yeah, and big time game.
Vanderbilt, which was our first SEC road game, which, it felt almost like the kind of games we would have against Iowa State or teams like that. Good football team, a team that Texas has superior talented to, but scrappy team,
scrappy quarterback, a little bit of momentum.
Scrappy quarterback, and you start off well, and then you kind of lose the momentum, and you got to tough it out and win. So Florida has talent, but the injury, horrible luck for them having their top 2 quarterbacks down. So next week is really when we get that true SEC deal when we have to go to Arkansas. Now, I know we've played them before, but as far as the atmosphere goes, and listen, I'm telling you right now, the Arkansas that we play is not going to be the Arkansas that got the crap kicked out of them by Ole Miss last night. You just know how that goes.
Okay, let me ask you this. Are they going to be the Arkansas that lost to Oklahoma State?
Who knows, man? Who knows? I mean, but it's just going to be a different atmosphere. And they hate Texas more than y'all do.
I'm not mad at Texas. You did not put this schedule out, okay? And you did schedule Michigan coming off a national championship. You didn't know when you scheduled them they would be down, okay? This isn't like y'all play cupcakes, whatever. I'm just saying it is an incredibly beneficial schedule. And I just don't feel like you've been outside of Georgia. Arkansas? Like you're literally saying, and who's your other team? Who do you play after that?
Kentucky.
How did you kill Kentucky?
We better.
You've basically
They play
got
really good defense, but yeah.
You have a Big 12 schedule. If any other year, and Georgia could have been your OU game, and then everything else was the Big 12. So it just feels weird to see what we're going through, and the schedule we have and the gauntlet we have, and then to see what y'all are going to. It's just frustrating.
What do you think your record would be with Texas' schedule? I can go through it.
Well, the injuries make it really, really hard to judge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think we beat Mississippi State.
Yeah. Yeah, you should beat Mississippi State. The talent disparity is just too much.
We lose to Texas, I guess. I know, we lose to Georgia. I think we could beat Vanderbilt, though. I mean, if we coached well, if we have a good game plan. But I don't know. Vanderbilt beat Alabama. We can't forget that. But I look at the Arkansas game, and I think Oklahoma would feel very comfortable in the Arkansas game now that we've got a new coordinator, and we're kind of. If you told me we were playing Arkansas, I bet the line would be very similar to what this Missouri line is.
Okay.
And I would be saying the same thing. Yeah, and then Kentucky, I think we beat Kentucky. I don't think Kentucky's any good right now. I think they're having a bad year.
Yeah, they have a really good defense, but their offense is, I mean, it looks like
Oklahoma's
like what we've seen out of Oklahoma's offense with the injuries and some weird coaching stuff in the beginning of the season when it came to design, and they've got Brett Vandergriff, and he just looks so bad out there. So I'm like, does he suck, or is it just everything around him? He's a 5-star guy. I know we know 5-star. There can be misses in evaluations of quarterbacks, but he does not look good at all.
But the difference with him, right, is you look at DJ Lagway, 5-star guy. He's a true freshman. Michael Hawkins, true freshman. Jackson Arnold, redshirt freshman. Arch, redshirt freshman.
Yeah.
So we're comparing. Brock Vandegrift's like a 5th or 6th year senior.
Yeah, I think he's like a 4th year guy. I think he's been around for a while.
Well, he's gone to 3 or 4 different schools. So however old he is, the guy
he went from didn't he go from Georgia straight to Kentucky?
I thought he was at USC first.
No. You might be thinking about
Am I thinking about the kid from West Virginia?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah,
but I still think he's a 4-year senior though, or a 4-year player.
He is a 4-year player.
And that makes him 22, Kevin.
Yeah, it's interesting. He still has another year of eligibility left too.
But you see what I'm getting at, right? He's older.
Yeah,
he's been in really good programs. So to see him struggle does not, at least when Jackson Arnold struggles or Hawkins struggles or even Arch against Georgia, you're like, well, I mean, he's got a lot to learn. This guy, you kind of expect. I think Kentucky expected him to come in and play, and he hasn't shown it.
Yeah, been very disappointing for him and for.
Do you know who Kentucky's offensive coordinator is?
I don't know. I don't.
Okay, let's talk. I want to talk a little bit about Billy Napier, just real quick, and then I'm going to ask you some matchup questions. Billy Napier, 4-4 this year, 15-17 through 3 years at Florida. He's getting paid $7.1 million a year. Does Napier make it through this season?
I think he makes it through this season. Honestly, I think Florida's looked better than I expected them to. They just have. And the thing, they've been competitive in almost every game. Let me pull up their.
I thought they were really competitive against Georgia until Lagway went down.
Correct. They were winning the football game, right? And they had forced Carson Beck into 3 more interceptions, like he did against Texas. And yeah, they were very, very much in that game. And when it comes to moments like this, the longer the game stays close, the more pressure gets on the favorite team.
Right.
So who knows what would have happened if this would have become a 4th quarter game. But if you look at it, I'll give them credit because they have beaten the teams that they're supposed to beat. Right? They lose to Miami. The game was close for a while. Miami pulled away in the second half. They beat Sanford. I mean, who cares? They lose at A&M, which for me, that was kind of a bad loss for them.
What was that score? What was that score?
Against A&M?
Yeah.
Yeah, 33-20.
It's better than Missouri. It's better than Missouri looked against A&M.
That is true. They beat Mississippi State 45-28. They beat Central Florida, which I thought Central Florida was going to win that game, and they beat them 24-13. They lose a heartbreaker to Tennessee in overtime, 23-17. And then they blow out Kentucky 48-20. And then, like I said, they're leading Georgia when Lagway gets injured. They end up losing by 2 touchdowns, 34-20. So I think the fact that they've been competitive really in every game, even their losses, and the team is still playing hard. He's recruiting well still. So we'll see, though. They're in the beginning of what's going to be the toughest 4 games maybe anybody has in college football this season, right? Georgia, at Texas, home against LSU, and then they play against Ole Miss. That is a tough 4-game stretch.
Do they play Florida State at the end of the season?
Florida State's the last game, Thanksgiving weekend, November 30th, which we thought was going to be a horrible game for them. That's why they still might have the toughest schedule in the country, but when they had that FSU game scheduled, we thought, oh man, to have those 5 games in a row, but now the FSU game looks incredibly winnable.
When they pushed Tennessee to overtime, was Lagway their quarterback?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, dude, I wish we could see Lagway play.
Me too. I love this. I mean, he's a Texas kid too.
Oh, really? Where's he out of?
Yeah, he's from a town called Willis, Texas. Yeah.
I've never heard of. Where's Willis, Texas at?
I think it's Greater Houston, but man, I don't even know.
There it is, city in Texas.
Yeah, it's near Conroe, Montgomery County.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so north of Houston.
Fun fact: Alex Young and I honeymooned in Conroe, Lake Conroe.
Really?
Doesn't sound
that.
Her dad had like a timeshare, and it was awesome.
Okay. Yeah,
and it doesn't sound. It does not sound like the fanciest place in the world. The only thing that was going against it more than anything was that it was at the end of July.
Ooh.
And Houston and Southeast Texas at the end of July. I imagine that's like what Africa's like all the time. You know what I mean? I imagine you could drop me in Africa with like a blindfold or Southeast Texas with a blindfold, and I couldn't tell you if I was in Africa or in Southeast Texas.
Man, that humidity, man. I guess it depends on what part of Africa. If there's water around,
I don't know. I imagine Africa as as a hot, steamy place, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
maybe India. I don't want to pick on Africa. I'm picking on Southeast Texas is what I'm trying to do. It's the hottest place on earth. We had a lovely time.
It's absolutely miserable.
We had a lovely time.
There through Louisiana.
Oh,
yeah, it's bad. So yeah, I would have loved to see TJ Lagway play in Austin against Texas. I'm sure it would have been a great moment for him, his family. But yeah, so I mean, that's what I don't know, man. If you're Florida, what do you do? Because it hasn't been working out, but this year it just seems like it's been just enough, right? To where it would maybe be a little bit cruel. I mean, I know this is a business and there's no really feelings in it, but we'll see how these last few games go. Are they competitive against Texas, LSU, and Ole Miss? And do they beat Florida? Can they steal one of these games? Potentially. It's going to be really rough without the quarterbacks, but
in the Florida injury report, he is listed as questionable. He did return to practice today.
Lagway. Okay, well, stay tuned, man. We'll see. Maybe that injury just wasn't what they thought it was. I'm curious to see. They've got a running back who played well against Georgia. I just had the stat sheet up. Hold on. And I think he ran for 7 yards a pop. Jacoby Johnson.
Jacoby Johnson on Oklahoma State.
Yeah. 5.7 yards a carry. I think he ran for 7 yards a carry against Georgia. So, I'll keep my eye on that. I expect them to kind of run the Mississippi State game plan where they try to control the clock and take their shots.
Did Vanderbilt do the same thing? Did Vanderbilt do the same thing?
They did. Of course, they had a lot more quarterback run game with Pavia, which we pretty much shut down outside of that run on their first drive where we took a horrible angle. Our nickelback took a horrible angle, and he got outside and, was able to take it to the house. Other than that, I thought we did a good job on him and stopped defensively. We were pretty good the entire game. But my biggest questions for Texas is going to be the Texas offense. What are we going to get from the running game? Is this offensive line going to be better? We gave up 4 sacks against Vanderbilt, which I don't like. I think we had 11 against Georgia, something crazy like that. But you say, okay, that's Georgia. And their coverage was so good. But the 4 against Vanderbilt is concerning. We had a lot of penalties on the offensive line, holding calls.
How many sacks did you give against OU? We had a couple, 3, didn't we?
I'm not sure. But yeah, more
That's
than
okay. You don't have to look it up. I feel like we had some sacks. I know on the first play of the game we sacked you. So
yeah, that was a covered sack, holding the ball too long. We got to clean some stuff up, and that's what I want to see. And what version? What's Quinn going to look like? What he did in the first half against Vanderbilt? Can he stretch that out over a full game? Because he was great in the first quarter, first half, really. But
any chance that Arch Manning sees the field in meaningful minutes?
Who knows? Depends on what version of Quinn we get. I'm hoping this bye week, because ever since the injury, he hasn't been the same guy. He was great. Not good, great before the injury. Hasn't been the same guy. He was better against Vanderbilt, but still not where he was in the beginning of the season. It seems like him getting hurt has kind of just thrown off all the progress that he's made as far as pocket awareness, stepping up, eluding the rush, keeping his eyes downfield, still making accurate throws while under pressure. He seems to be a little bit frozen when pressure comes, and we've had no real downfield passing game over the last few weeks. It's just been more of the, swing passes, screens, and RPOs. So I hope we can expand the offense, and I hope we just run the ball well. We need to get back to really running the football. Because, at the end of the day, that's what Sark and Texas prefer to do. Run the ball well and then take a few shots down the field to the right receivers that they have.
I know you hate it when I say this, but every time you say Sark likes to run the ball, I think about Bijan and Roshan not getting the ball the entire 2022 season when they should have. Every time you say that, I think of the 2 best running backs you've had this decade. And then, probably Jonathan Brooks is pretty good.
Yeah, Jonathan Brooks is probably better than Roshan, but
Roshan's good though, man.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we love Roshan. Trust me.
That was showing love to Jonathan Brooks. But he did not hand the ball off like he should have that year.
And I told you my issue with Quinn's a true playoff too. When we're running it all over, Washington. The first couple drives, I'm like, they're not going to be able to stop this all game long.
So part of me is picking at you just a little bit, just to kind of be funny. But the other part of me is dead serious. Like, I don't know that Sark really does want to run the ball.
Yeah, you know how these coaches are, man. They can get in their own way at time. If you're going to get sacked 11 times against anybody, you need to be running the ball more. Correct.
Like, stop putting the ball in your quarterback's hand against Georgia, and why don't you try to get your running backs out to space and try to make something happen? Like, to me, that would frustrate me about Sark. And he is a very good play caller.
And it does, and his thing has always been, hey, if you play cover 2, we're going to run the football. And I've seen some teams run cover 2. We still haven't ran the ball. My thing is,
do you take back your earlier statement where you said Sark wants to run the ball and take some deep shots?
No.
Kevin.
He just doesn't run it enough. He likes to run the ball. He just doesn't run it enough.
All right. Texas is
I'm like you, man. I love to see. I'll take a good running back over a good receiver any day of the week.
Look, Michigan won a national championship last year and didn't pass the ball the entire second half against Penn State. Okay? Maybe I don't want to have that offense. I don't know. If I'm ever actually confronted with it, maybe it would drive me nuts. but there's just something very satisfying about running the ball and imposing your will and holding on to it and just demoralizing a team
Yes, that's the
by
thing.
getting
It
first
just
downs.
demoralizes you. Yeah.
It just demoralizes them, man.
Yeah.
And
And even someone like we're talking about peak Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma.
he would run the ball.
It's because you ran all those deep shots were set up by the counter that he would run with, especially when you got to lose going with Rodney Anderson in 2018. Really hard to stop, man.
Look at Kennedy Brooks in 21. When we were playing well, which was games against Texas, he's running the ball. When we played poorly, Baylor and Oklahoma State, for some reason, we stopped running the ball. It was just, you got a big lead against Oklahoma State and you don't run the ball with Kennedy Brooks. What's happening? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Texas, 21.5 point favorite, over under 47.5. We will pick that game at the end when we pick all of our games. Kevin, let's take a break here and give a shout out to our sponsors. Brown O'Haver. We talked about this on Sunday. The city of Oklahoma City, specifically the southeast part of Oklahoma City, not very far from where I live, actually, got lit up by a tornado. Brown O'Haver already has 3 tornado clients from this neighborhood. This was my first day to actually get to see the damage. Kevin, it was awful. It's awful. And it's just so weird how like life goes on. It's like you still have to do stuff but at the same time, your house is just demolished. And Oklahoma's still playing a football game this weekend. Texas still playing a football game. But listen, this is what Brown O'Haver does, okay? If you're out there. Brown O'Haver is an insurance adjuster for the insured, not the insurance company. They work for you. If you've had tornado damage or fire or anything that displaces you from your home and you have to file an insurance claim, you call Brown O'Haver at 405-735-5510. Let them work for you to get you more money and maybe sometimes even more importantly, guide you through the process of rebuilding your home and your life. We've been doing it in Moore, Oklahoma since 2006. So you know how many tornadoes we've seen as a company. You can imagine how many insurance claims we've processed that are tornado claims. The answer is way too many. Okay. Brown O'Haver, 405-735-5510. Kevin, if they just suffered a little bit of hail damage or maybe quite a bit of hail damage and they need a new roof, do you know anybody they should call?
Yeah, they got to give Pioneer Roofing a call. They can go out to your house, give you a free inspection, let you know if you have enough damage to file an insurance claim, or let you know if your roof is fine. You don't have any damage, just to give you that peace of mind. These guys are trustworthy. They'll take care of you. 405-549-2712. Pioneer Roofing.
Kevin, it's week 11.
It is week 11, John.
Oh.
I know. It's been such a fun season. I know season hasn't gone the way that Oklahoma fans would have hoped, but just as looking at college football as a whole, it's been so much fun, man.
Outside of Oklahoma season, it has been fantastic. When you think back at some of the games we've already seen, Oregon, Ohio State, classic. Vanderbilt upsetting Alabama. Your game against Georgia.
Georgia, Alabama.
Georgia, Alabama. The Penn State, Ohio State game, especially at the end of the second quarter, was fantastic. And then, of course, Penn State does what Penn State does and runs it up. It's just been great. And this weekend, not a lot of drop off. So I kind of hope that Oklahoma can get in on the fun, right? And get a big win and be featured on college football final for the first time in like 3 weeks. Anyway, let's start in the ACC. Miami at Georgia Tech plus 11. Does Cam Ward add to his Heisman resume with a big win against the Yellow Jackets?
Yeah, man, it's just hard to see the Canes losing to anybody in this regular season. They do like to play with fire at times.
I was about to say Virginia Tech has a different answer to that.
Yeah. I mean, again, they've had a little bit of luck with some of these finishes, kind of 2002 Ohio State-ish, where they just kind of keep pulling these games off somehow. But, man, at this point, I just don't see them losing a game if they show up even 75% focused. The schedule is just pretty weak.
I think about them going up against any of the top 3 defenses in either the SEC and the Big Ten. And I can't imagine that the firepower will get to me. It reminds me a lot of Oklahoma in the 2000 teams, big, powerful offenses, but going up against a really good defense, kind of getting pushed a little bit.
Yeah, once they get into those trenches with bigger and
I
more
feel like that
experienced teams. No, I get the same vibe from Miami too. And I think that's why they've been still ranked behind teams that have one loss, despite them being undefeated still.
Yeah.
So I think most people see that.
Purdue at number 2, Ohio State. Ohio
Purdue's
State's 38-point favorite. Purdue is terrible. Michigan and Indiana. Indiana is ranked 8th in the college football playoff. They are undefeated. The argument against is they have played nobody, and even a win against Michigan is not going to really help them that much. The argument for Indiana is that the teams they have played, they have beat the living crap out of just about every single team. And I mean, listen, dude, you and I have been college football fans forever. Indiana's never been worth a flip, even with Kevin Wilson for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, they've just never been good.
Yeah, I mean, the only player I can even think of from Indiana is Antoine Randall L. when he was there.
I did not know he went to Indiana. I would have guessed. Did he play quarterback?
He did.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Wow. That's a good one, Kevin. Okay, so here's just a couple of tidbits. This is the first time they've been favored over Michigan since 1968. By the way, they're a 14.5-point favorite. So they're not just favored. They're favored by 2+ touchdowns. And they've only won once against Michigan since 1987, and that was in the COVID season of 2020.
Yeah, Michael Penix was the quarterback before he.
Was he really?
Before he went to Washington.
I don't know. I mean, I think Indiana rolls. I haven't seen anything from Michigan that makes me think they're going to rise up.
Neither do I. I mean, their offense, it just hasn't been anything good at all this season. So, it's one of those things that if Indiana can score 27 points, they should win the game. Because Michigan just can't. They're not capable of scoring those kind of points.
Yeah,
But you would have thought we'd have been there. We'd have been here with Michigan this season.
Well, I don't know I don't know.
That bad. We knew they'd be some drop off, losing Harbaugh and a lot of guys, but I don't think anybody.
But you lose Harbaugh, you lose JJ McCarthy. You've got to rebuild with something. Maybe not to this extent, but regardless, still the best defense Indiana's played. I think
probably. The most they've scored this year is 28 points, and that was against Arkansas State, Michigan.
Oh, yeah, no. I think Indiana.
Well, actually, they scored 30. They scored 30 against Fresno State, which all came late. They had a big-time pick 6 by Will Johnson to put that game away.
Big-time matchup in the SEC. We're going to pick this game. Georgia at Ole Miss. Ole Miss looked a little vulnerable against Oklahoma. I don't know. Once they got the lead that anybody was ever worried Ole Miss was going to lose. But you saw, Oklahoma was able to hang with them for a long period of time. And then they go up to Arkansas and just deliver a butt whipping. And you're left going, I'm not sure. Ole Miss is better than Florida. At least I think they are, right? I mean, I don't think I'm stepping out on a limb there.
No.
And Florida had a lead on them until their quarterback goes down. Georgia at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a 2.5-point dog at home. We're going to pick this game. Does Kiffin have what it takes to upset the Bulldogs?
Man, I think so. I think so. I think they've got enough offensively to make things difficult. They have a ton of weapons. I think they put so much on tape last week. I mean, we got to remember Trey Harris hasn't played the last 2 weeks.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
He's leading receiver.
That's what I was going to say. Look at what they did against Oklahoma in terms of just with their tight ends.
Correct.
I mean, just the game plan that he was able to put together, not having that receiver and going to that 12 personnel and all the things that kind of evolved out of that. Oklahoma, we know, has a good defense, and they kind of exposed OU. Lane can they lose to Kentucky, and I can think Lane is the wheels are gonna fall off. but then they have 2 good wins, and I think Lane might be the, coaching genius of the century.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, and Jackson Dart having a great season. He's already 3,210 yards, 21 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. I mean, he's
That's
protecting the
crazy.
football. Yeah. So, I mean,
Which Georgia doesn't do. In their last 2 games, he's had 6 interceptions.
And they haven't been punished for it. That's the most frustrating thing about Texas playing against them. You force 3 turnovers against a good team, you should win the game. You have to win the game.
You got no points
score. You can score. You got nothing off of it. Yep. So I don't know. Ole Miss is a team that I feel can punish you, which is there's so many things you have to look out for, and they can run the ball. They'll run the football. Henry Paris 678. You guys did a good job of shutting him down, but again, they were throwing it so well though. I think it's almost like pick your poison. If they can run the ball against Georgia, and who knows, that might be their game plan. They put so much passing tape on film, explosive passing tape on film. Perhaps Georgia comes out and plays a dime. They put an extra DB on the field to try to cover those receivers, and Ole Miss just runs the ball. Maybe they adjust and then they spread it out. So it's a lot to cover if you're Kirby Smart. So I'm curious what Georgia's game plan is going to be. And again, with Georgia, can they protect the football? Because it's been ugly from back the last 2 weeks.
Keep it in mind, 2.5. We're going to pick it. Iowa State and Kansas. Kansas not having the year that they thought they were. Iowa State coming off their first loss, I believe, to Texas Tech. Is that who beat them last week?
Yes. And it was at Ames, too. So they lost a home game to Texas Tech.
Iowa State is a 2.5-point favorite. Army, North Texas. 25th ranked Army in the college football playoff rankings. They are a 5.5-point favorite at North Texas. Clemson at Virginia Tech. Clemson's dropped all the way to 23rd. Virginia Tech 6.5-point dog at home. Number 20, Colorado. I don't think I thought Colorado was going to be at 20 at this point in the season in the college football playoff poll. They are at the aforementioned Texas Tech. They are 3.5-point favorites. If Prime can beat Tech, he is positioning Colorado in a very good spot in the Big 12.
Completely agree. Like you said, didn't think this would be happening, but I'm glad to see it. They're just a well-coached football team, right? I think they've improved in the areas where they needed to improve going into the season. It's going to be a tough matchup. I saw some clips, Coach Prime, they film everything about him talking about the atmosphere there, about the tortillas that are going to be thrown on the field.
It's terrible.
Texas Tech, listen, we both know this. Lubbock is a very difficult place for your team to go and play at. The fans are loud. It's one of those places. It's not a huge stadium, maybe 65,000 if that, but it's loud, man. They have a great atmosphere.
I was at the game where with Adrian Peterson where they got screwed on the 4th down call, and then again with the touchdown call on the same drive. The same drive they got screwed. Would that have been 05?
Yeah, I think it was 05.
Oh my God, dude. It sucked. I vowed then and there. I was never going to a game in Lubbock again. And I was born in Lubbock. I was born in Lubbock. My birth certificate says Lubbock, Texas. I'm never going to a game in Lubbock again. Those are the worst people in the world. If there's any indication, whenever I'm at my worst, Kevin, it's that little bit of Lubbock rubbing off. That's what it is.
I'm curious to see as we continue to, have some years in the SEC and as we travel to some of these places, are any of these places going to be as bad as Lubbock? I'm not going to include Arkansas because I know what it is especially for Texas fans. So I'm not even including them in this. But these other places, are they going to be as bad as
probably LSU? Right?
I could imagine that. Man.
Those people are nuts.
Yeah. Are you going?
No, God, no. I wish I was.
All
right. South Carolina at Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's 3.5 dogs. South Carolina is the new darling of the SEC.
Should be a fun football game. So I think South Carolina should be ranked either too, by the way.
How many losses they have?
Let's see. They're 5-3.
You can't be ranked at 5-3. You got to at least be 6-2. But I think they're better than Ole Miss.
I think
not Ole Miss. I think they're better than Missouri, right? I mean,
for sure. Yes. And it's funny they actually play them next week.
Yeah.
At South Carolina. I think that's a good football team, man.
if they could beat Vandy and beat Missouri, they'll be ranked.
They lost to LSU. In a game, I thought they got screwed by the refs in that game against LSU.
Should have beat Bama.
They got beat down. They got beat down by Ole Miss. They should have beat Bama. They lost by 2 points. And yeah, that's it, man. I mean,
they rolled Oklahoma.
Yeah, 35-9 and 44-20 over A&M. We'll see if they beat Vanderbilt. I think they will be ranked. They got to go there. It's kind of funny, right? This SEC thing. You got Vanderbilt and South Carolina, which looks like a very fun football game to watch.
Absolutely,
I'll be tuning in.
Absolutely. Maryland at number 1, Oregon. Oregon's a 25-point favorite. Mississippi State at 7, Tennessee, 24-point favorite. Another one we're going to pick, Alabama at LSU. This doesn't feel like Alabama LSU circa 2009, though, does it? I don't think we're going to get a 9-6 game.
No, not quite. No. Teams are playing a little bit differently, but this should be an incredible atmosphere at Tiger Stadium. We talked about night games in Death Valley, historic type stuff, and it's a college football playoff elimination game. Win or go home.
Yes.
I love everything about this matchup, man. We love this college football stuff. We love the SEC, and this is peak SEC right here with LSU and Alabama.
Okay, let me tell you what has changed since joining the SEC. Okay,
what's that?
Pre-SEC member or membership or whatever, I would have chosen to root for LSU because I was tired of watching Alabama win all the time. Okay. And I would have been like, let's go LSU. Let's get a win. This is great. I don't want either of these teams to win. I now hate both of them like equally bad.
I love it.
I don't like any of them. Like
it's
before,
great.
It's like, I don't have to play LSU. It's fine. Blah, blah, blah. I know they were buttholes in 03, whatever. No, I don't like any of them. I don't want them to win. I am going to be glued to it though, because I know this is going to be a football game. I hope so. Yeah. I hope it's going to be good. I would love Jalen Miller to ball out. There's something about that guy that I kind of like. Like he's kind of up and down.
Correct. Yeah, I mean he's a classic college quarterback.
Yes.
Right. It's one of those guys. We get Cordell Stewart in the '90s. He'd have a great game and then a rough game, then a great game. It's just what it used to be, man. So yeah, I love the kid. He's a great kid.
Kevin, you're 100% right. He's like their high school quarterback. He's obviously a lot better, but he's prone to having really, really good games and prone to being like, what are you doing? Why are you acting like a knucklehead with that throw,
Yeah.
But man, I'm pulling for Bam. We'll see. We're picking that game. LSU, 2.5-point dog at home. Florida State's at Notre Dame. Notre Dame will kill them. They're a 26-point favorite. Washington at Penn State. Penn State's a 13.5-point favorite. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Florida State, right? We talked about how it's completely falling apart this year.
Wheels are, yeah, the whole thing. As bad as it gets.
If you're Florida State, do you consider Coach Prime saying, hey, what do you think now?
Yes. Shadur's leaving.
Shadur's gone.
Shadur's leaving. Yes.
Travis Hunter's gone. I mean,
wow.
There's no better time. Can you imagine that? He wanted the job before. And they turned him down, which I understand. This is before even Jackson State. This is when they hired Mike Norvell. Because he wanted to get into coaching college. And, they were like, well, you never coached before at college level. You don't have a degree. So that's when he ended up going to Jackson State. They helped him get his degree and everything. And he became the head coach of Jackson State. Did a good job. Got the Colorado job. Obviously, he got Travis Hunter to commit to Jackson State over Florida State. Got the job at Colorado. It's looking good so far this season. It's a lot of buzz. Played for Florida State. Number 2, of course.
Wow.
I'm just curious. Can you imagine that?
Here's the deal. I don't want to imagine that because I don't even want to think about Coach Prime being able to recruit in the state of Florida.
Correct.
God, he would. Look, I think Norvell's a good coach, and we saw what he was able to do last year. And I think we can all say Florida State got screwed. Maybe not by any one particular team, but just the system in general.
Yeah,
they got screwed.
Yes.
And that really, really, really sucks. But man, if you got the chance to hire Prime and you're coming off an 0-8 or like what are they 1-7 right now or some stupid
That's the problem. Despite, I mean, you can't go 1-8.
look,
That can't happen.
Oklahoma has been decimated by injuries. We're playing the toughest schedule that we've ever had, and we have a
Yes, you still
legitimate
have
chance at being 6-4 at this point in the season if we can win.
yes, you have a winning record. How do you go 1-4? Georgia Tech, Boston College, Memphis. You beat
Yeah.
Cal 14-9, blown out by SMU, 16-point loss to Clemson. You lose to Duke, blown out by Miami, blown out by North Carolina, who's not any good either. Now you got to go to Notre Dame. You got Charleston Southern, which will be a win. And then you play Florida, and if you're picking that game, you'd have to pick Florida right now. So you're looking at
that's
a
fascinating.
2-win. That is inexcusable. I don't care. They haven't been that bad. They sucked before anybody was hurt.
Kevin, true serum here. Did you hear this from somebody else, or is this your own idea?
This is my own deal.
That's impressive. I love it. Man, I don't want to think about it. I do not want to freaking think about him being there.
Yeah. I love it though, man. I mean, obviously I love Deion Sanders. Used to love Florida State as a kid. Yeah, I think it's perfect. Let's see it, man.
Golly. First of all, I love Florida State as a kid. Chief Osceola, are you kidding me?
That war chant.
The Seminole.
Yeah, when you're trying to get a kid into college football, man, put on that Florida State war chant and see everybody doing. They're trying to do that crap in Kansas City. I'm like, come on, man! Everybody's all off rhythm with it. Like, put on the Florida State tape.
We've talked about my buddy Dusty Hansen and his boy Justice Hansen that played at OU for a little bit and then transferred to Arkansas State. Had a really good career at Arkansas State. When he was getting recruited out of Edmond Santa Fe, he got to go on the recruiting visit being hosted by Florida State.
Love it.
And he said it was awesome. He said, John, the game day experience is, this is a guy who grew up, Dusty, who loved Oklahoma and all that, still loves, won a national championship with him in baseball, the whole deal. But he said, it's awesome. I do not want to think about Prime. All right. Washington at Penn State. Penn State 13.5-point favorite. Nevada.
They got to bounce back. Penn State's got to bounce back here. They're still on track for the college football playoff. Everything that they want is still ahead of them, despite the heartbreaking loss to Ohio State.
They bounce back. But Franklin, dude, listen, this is what Franklin is. We said this. I said this last year.
He's a very good coach, but not a championship coach.
Not a dude. Come on, you can't run it up the middle three times.
Natty.
Nevada at Boise State. JT Watch 2024 continues to see how well he does against Nevada. Hopefully he can pad some stats. Virginia at Pitt. Pitt loses last week. They still remain ranked 18th. They're 7.5-point favorites. And then closing it out on the list of games we're going to talk about. And I think we're going to pick, unless you heard something else you wanted to pick, the Holy War in Utah. BYU, number 9 in the college football playoff poll versus Utah. Utah is a 4-point underdog at home. I have no idea about Cam Rising. I know nothing about what they're going to be bringing to the table. What I do know is BYU is playing out of their minds. This is setting up to be a dream season for them in the Big 12 if they can get past their arch-hated rival. This is much like a game that you're going to be playing later, Kevin, Texas and Texas A&M, where they haven't played for 3 or 4 years, and there is real, legitimate spiritual hate in this game. Anything to think that BYU can't go ahead and just take care of business?
Well, I mean, these rivalry games are always tricky, and Utah, they're trying to salvage their season. I mean, it's just completely falling apart. We talked about them. I think, did you pick them to win the Big 12, right, this season?
I might have, yeah.
It's a reasonable pick going into it. I mean, I picked Oklahoma State. And listen, they start off 4-0 with wins over Southern Utah, Baylor, Utah State, and Oklahoma State. And since then, 4 straight losses. I mean, you can't expect that from a Kyle Whittingham team. They lose to Arizona 23-10, 27-19 at Arizona State. They lose at TCU 13-7. And then they lose at Houston 17-14. So now they're 4-4. So, they're trying to salvage their season. And then after that, they got to go to Colorado the week after. They play Iowa State after that. Then they got to go all the way to Orlando and play Central Florida. So it's a rough go for Utah the rest of the season. So a win for them against BYU would just be huge and just salvaging what has turned into a very, very disappointing season. Cam Rising, I don't expect to see him out there. He did not play. He hasn't played. He did play October 11th against Arizona State, but he has not played the last 2 weeks. It's been the Isaac Wilson kid that's been going for them. So,
and obviously it hasn't been going well.
no.
Are you good with picking that game?
Yeah.
Did you hear anything else to it? Okay, so let's start at the top. Georgia, Ole Miss. Georgia, 2.5-point favorite.
Man, I like Ole Miss in this one. I like them to cover, and I like them to actually win the football game. I could be dead wrong here, but I think Georgia's been playing with fire a little bit too much. And with Carson Beck turning the ball over, I just don't like. Let's say they were great against Texas, but I just don't like what I've seen from them overall. And I think Ole Miss is rolling. So yeah, I think they get a historic win for Lane Kiffin at home.
I am rooting for Ole Miss because I'm basically rooting for some chaos. I would love to see Georgia take a hit and see what that does to the playoff. I think that would be a more fun story to have to see who gets in and out with 2 losses. That being said, Georgia rises up and they beat Ole Miss. They're Georgia and they're Ole Miss, and Georgia beats Ole Miss.
They do like to show up for these big games, don't they? They seem to have
They really do.
They did that against Texas.
I think the weird part, when you can't get up for Florida because you think Florida sucks, you kind of saw that. I don't know. We'll see. Again, I'm pulling for Ole Miss because I want the chaos. But
yeah.
Bama, LSU. LSU is a 2.5-point dog.
Man, this one's tough for me because both teams are really talented and really good, but also flawed. But I'm gonna go LSU with it being a night game at home. I think they get some of that magic that they can have down there.
I think Kalen DeBoer can take advantage of LSU's weaknesses on defense. I think he can game plan it up. I think Jalen Milroe is going to be on the upswing for this game. I take Bama for the win and cover. BYU, Utah, BYU 4-point favorite.
I like BYU. I like how physical they are. I like how they run the football, and I love their defense. And Utah's offense has been struggling all season, and I think they just aren't going to be able to manufacture enough points. So I like BYU on the road.
It's at this point in the podcast where I would normally make some sort of, I don't know, snide BYU LDS Mormon joke about my wife or her family or something to do with Utah.
Just explain to the people listening that your wife is, grew up in Utah and is
that she was born and raised. Yeah, born in Utah. Yeah. And I would say something, and then I'd have to apologize for it later. I'm not doing that today because I think BYU is going to beat Utah.
Good.
And I think they're going to beat them by more than 4 points. I think they could really kind of beat them down. I think Utah's a wounded dog.
It's one of those things they owe them. It feels like BYU owes Utah a beatdown. You just kind of.
Well, BYU was pissed. Okay, so we talked about this. BYU was pissed when Utah went to the Pac-12 and they didn't get an invite. So that was snub number 1. And maybe there were some snubs before that I'm not even aware of, but they were pissed about the big Pac-12 invite back in whatever that was, 09, 10, 11, whatever. Then they get invited to the Big 12, and then Utah somehow snakes their way into that. And they were all pissed, and then BYU got all butthurt about that. So there's a lot of animosity. This is a very much a Texas A&M in-state, type situation with a little bit of religiosity sprinkled on it. I'm going with BYU. Texas, Florida, 21.5-point favorite. I do not see how Texas keeps. I'm sorry. I don't see how Florida State keeps it. Or Florida. Golly, I can't get it. We're an hour and 9 minutes in. I'm losing my brain. I don't see how Florida could keep this within 21.5.
Yeah, I mean,
because if he's hurt at all, I'm taking Texas to cover.
Yeah, I mean, unless they get like a heroic defensive performance, I don't see it either. And I hope it's maybe wishful thinking, but I think Texas comes out a little bit rejuvenated after the bye week, and hopefully they let some things rip offensively that they haven't been able to do the last few games. So And I think the defense, which has been really good the entire season, continues to play well, forces some turnovers, and I think they cover as well.
Oklahoma, 3-point favorite on the road against Missouri. Missouri's 24th in the college football playoff. They're 6-2. Lots of bad blood between these programs in the offseason. Caden Green, Drinkwitz is a douche. There's just a bunch of stuff going on here. Old-time rivalry from the Big 12, Big 8 days. Just a lot. There's a lot here. Oklahoma has to win this game. Kevin, this is the hardest game I feel like I've picked all year. Even the games I lost, I felt comfortable about my picks. Like I felt strongly that, hey, this is a chance for Oklahoma. Or like I said, against South Carolina, I don't see how it's going to happen. Whatever the case may be. I think Oklahoma beats I think they beat Missouri, dude. I think they beat Missouri, and I think they beat them by more than 3 points. Am I crazy?
No, actually, I don't think you're crazy at all. I think with the way Missouri is, they just look so shaky this year. Just something just hasn't looked right, and there's no reason for it to look the way it has looked. They haven't handled the success that they finished the season with last year well, and I just feel like they're ripe for the taking right now. If you get your receivers back, especially if you get Deion Burks back and he's healthy, that opens up the offense. We talk about this before the season, the slot fade that you can run with him. Hopefully now for you guys with Joe John Finley calling the plays, hopefully they take advantage of that mismatch that you can have with him against a nickel defender. And you can get him going to get some downfield passing game going. If you can hit a couple big plays with him, get up early, then you can unleash the pass rush, which you guys have not been able to do because you've been trailing in every game so far over the second half of the season. So I think if you get an early lead, you can get after them, and I think you win. So I think you win and cover.
All right. We both picked our two schools, Texas and OU, but we were both picked BYU, opposite in the other two SEC matchups. Kevin, before we close out, you are a Thunder season ticket holder. Is that correct?
I have a mini plan, so I go to like.
Oh, I thought you got the whole. Season.
No. Yeah, no, I don't do the whole 41 home games. Yeah, we do half of those, so like 20 games. So.
Suffice it to say, you're a fan, though.
Absolutely.
Okay. They're 7-0. I don't know if you knew this. They've won all 7 games by more than 10 points, which has never happened in the history of the NBA. They are on the road against Denver. Denver is short Jamal Murray and who's their other big guy? Not Jokic, but no. Athletic. I can't think of his name.
Michael Porter or is
it
Aaron Gordon?
Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon's out. Jamal Murray's out. Aaron Gordon's out. They're up 78-65, 7 minutes to go in the third quarter. Presumably, they're going to win this game. I don't want to jinx them, but how good are the Thunder really?
Well, they're absolutely incredible, especially defensively. Your son Jeffrey and I talked about this. Just the amount of options that they can throw at you from a defensive standpoint, just in the backcourt. First of all, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a very underrated defender. He gets after you. Lou Dort, one of the best defensive players in the NBA. Then off the bench, now you have Cason Wallace, who I love, out of Kentucky. He was a rookie last year.
You loved him last year. Correct. He was great.
He's like young Drew Holiday is what he reminds me of. He's a ferocious defender. And then you bring in Alex Caruso, who made his way to the NBA. He was a guy who was in the G League for a while. And he got into the NBA because of how good of a defensive player he is. So when you have those 4 guys, they put offenses in hell. Their defensive rating so far this season is historically good. It's almost like so far, and it's early, right? But so far this season, they're like the football version or the basketball version of the 2000 Ravens. That's the kind of defense that they're playing. And the crazy thing is they're not even shooting the ball from 3 great yet. So there's room for improvement. So, they get after you defensively. Chet Holmgren has taken his game up a notch on both sides of the court. So, yes, a very, very dangerous team. it's going to be hard for anybody to handle them in the Western Conference this season. I think they can win 60 to 65 games if
Are you
everybody stays
serious?
healthy. I'm
What
very
was
serious.
do you know what was the win total for them with Vegas? Do you remember?
I think it was probably already high 50s. I would have to say, yeah.
Look, I love what the Thunder are about. They're a fun team to watch. They play so hard. They're already getting Draymond to hate on them, which I love. Draymond can say the stupidest crap sometimes, and when he's
Do you
talking
know what
about,
he said? I haven't heard this.
he said that there's no way they're going to really win because they're too much like a college team. They're having too much fun playing together.
Was he like sarcastic
No,
saying that?
no,
Huh. Interesting. He's an interesting guy.
he's different, dude. And it just,
He is.
and I think it was
Okay.
One of them responded and was like, "Yeah, we're not really worried what Draymond has to say. We're going to play our
Yeah.
game, and we have a lot of fun."
Correct. Just do what you do.
Hey, they're going to start hitting. They're going to start hitting threes. They're a good shooting team. They might not be in it right now, but they're a good shooting team. Giddey, how good a 3-point shooter did we lose with Giddey though when we lost?
No. He's not a 3-point shooter at all. No.
So you're fine. All right. So we're not.
I'm actually happy for him because he's a guy that needs to be the primary ball handler on the team, and that was not going to happen with Shea. So it just ended up not being a good fit. But he's a really good player, and he's looking really good for Chicago. And he's kind of running the show, and they're running the fast break a lot. If you have a chance, watch some Chicago highlights. And offensively, with him with the ball in the hands, he's getting guys set up. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, you always liked his game, but you knew that there were deficiencies there, but only because everybody else was so much better. Like because you had Shea.
Yes.
Like you're comparing him to Shea. It's like, well, everybody's gonna suck compared to Shea. So, now is the Thunder going with a consistent starting lineup right now?
They're
Or are
still
they kind of mixing
tinkering.
it up?
Yeah, Caruso's been in there. You've had Case and Wallace starting some games too. So yeah, they're still tinkering with the lineups, and that's the crazy part is it's going to take a while to figure out what's your best lineup against certain matchups. But all I know is no matter who they have out there, they've got some intense defensive players out there. The defending has been elite, beyond elite.
Right now in the league, is there a better GM than Presti?
No. I mean, what's our guy's name from for the Celtics? He used to be the head coach from Butler. You know what I'm talking about. He was their head coach, and now he's GM. Brad Stevens.
Yep.
Brad Stevens has done a great job building up that Boston.
Won a title. Won a world title.
Yeah, correct. As a GM, so he's up there. But just the moves, nobody has the talent plus all of the draft capital that OKC has. They could literally make a move for any player in the league. They have what it takes. If they wanted to give up, just say for whatever reason, I don't see them doing this, but they wanted to get a mega star, they have the capital to get it. Whoever they want.
But
I'm not saying they should, they won't.
But Kevin, because when you think about the NBA, a lot of the mega stars are getting older.
Yeah.
There's a couple mega stars. The guy in Indiana, I think he's really good.
Oh, Halliburton?
Yeah, I think Halliburton's really good, but he's not better than Shea. At least I don't think he is.
No.
But you know what in terms of like young superstars, the Oklahoma City Thunder might have the best young superstar.
Absolutely. I mean, he's 26 and he's the oldest starter on the team. Shea is. It's insane.
But you see what I'm getting at? Like,
when
you think about who you're going to trade for, well, I mean, casual NBA fans like myself, I'm a casual NBA fan. Steph Curry's old.
Yeah.
He's old. LeBron, of course, is old.
Kevin Durant.
Kevin Durant is old.
Yeah.
Anthony Davis is decrepit and old.
Yeah, he's what is he, 30, 31 now?
Yeah, I mean, the only guy, Tatum's younger, right? He's under 30.
Yeah, he's 20. I think he's 26.
Oh, is he the same age as Shea?
I believe so.
So, maybe Tatum, but dude, Shea's good, man. So when you talk about like who they're going to go get, they need to get a star. I'm not saying you're saying that, but I'm just saying in terms of.
They don't need to. But I'm saying, just say for whatever reason, Sam Presti said, we want to win now and we want to get somebody who could help us win the championship this year. Just say he wanted to get Joel Embiid. He has what it takes to be able to get Joel Embiid. He has the assets to offer something.
Joel Embiid is not going to help the Thunder win a title. I'm just telling you.
No, but I'm just saying, like a star of that caliber, right? Who's one of the top, 10 players in the NBA. He has the draft capital right now, even without trading players, because they own the Clippers' future, and the Clippers are going to be horrible this year. So we're talking about a top 5.
Look, we've seen it. We've seen in the past teams tank, but never have they rebounded to this level. They just haven't. No. Philadelphia, the
trust the process. They tanked for years, and they haven't gotten to the conference finals yet.
A true 2-year tank for the Thunder? Is that all we had to endure?
If that,
a little bit of 3?
Yeah.
No, it's really like 2, right?
Yeah.
Because even Chris Paul made it in the playoff. If COVID doesn't hit with Chris Paul, we were going to be the 4 seed.
Exactly. So not even a real legitimate tank. So
I don't know. It was pretty bad there for a couple of years.
It was that 1 year was rough, but
it was pretty bad.
Look what you got out of it. The Shea trade though was great, and what you got out of it. And they just caught the Clippers at a good time. They wanted Kawhi Leonard was going there. He wanted Paul George. I mean, he was adamant that they go get Paul, which, and I love Paul George, but, you get Shea.
I never liked Paul George.
Oh, okay, really?
I just didn't.
I'm a Paul George fan.
He was such a disappointment. The playoff P stuff and stuff. He was terrible in the playoffs.
He was not good in the playoffs that year.
Him and Russ that year they played Utah. Oh,
yeah, and it was very disappointing because Paul George was looking like a borderline MVP candidate down the stretch that season. He was so good.
Yes, he did look good in the regular season, and he kind of got fired up, and then the playoffs hit, and you were like, "Who's this dude? This guy's a bum." So,
so we'll see how that works out in Philly. By the way, I've got questions about that.
Well, I don't know. Embiid he's a frustrating. He's a frustrating superstar.
He's so talented. He is so talented, man. But he's never been able to, take care of his body. Never been in great conditioning. So, we'll see if he ever ends up getting a title. I don't know.
Oklahoma must-win situation. Texas looking to cruise. A great slate of college football this week. We'll be back on Sunday to preview it. Kevin, have a great night, a great week. Boomer.
Hook 'em.